Hi, my name is Monica Walker, and I'm here today with John Sweetnam, who's from Conflict Evolution, and talking about this new program that he's been working on. This is a continuation of a conversation we've been having about some of the sort of tips or tools that can help us move into a state within ourselves that will help us to be better at dealing with conflict. So John, can you tell us some more?
Well, thank you, and not only from Conflict Evolution, but from the whole coach perspective, NLP perspective, of how we give better language and better understanding of what conflict is. And conflict, like all of us, we're energy beings, and a word like conflict has energy. And if we took it on conflict on a scale of 1 to 12, conflict might come up at a 10. If you were choosing a number from 1 to 12 on a conflict that you had, what number would you give it?
Oh, maybe a 6.
Maybe 6.
Yeah.
So for me, a 6 sounds more like an issue. Sounds more like a situation. Right up there with my Jamaica experience of no problem, man, just a situation. And that's manageable. I think of conflict as being right up there where you get on the late night news and you hear people being kidnapped, or a worker being killed on the road, or I think of conflict that turns off on me as an employer. I think of conflict at work when somebody says something not only arrogant but rude and puts people down. For me, I'm big on respect, so when I hear somebody being very disrespectful, that these are core values being triggered off. When I have a level 6, it's just an ongoing situation challenge that comes up because things at work come up. Could be misunderstandings, lack of clarity. Could be just the normal ebb and flow of people having different expectations, different needs, and they feel different about things. So that's kind of important in our program to understand what is the practice that we're working through. Conflict is a generalized word, and in our program is very specific about language. We're very specific about words holding energy. And so one of the things we do, and we look at this as a practice, not perfection, it's a practice of handling issues, situations, and challenges that in each one of us trigger conflict at various levels. Some conflict inside and some just conflictual outside because they challenge our belief about the world. So conflict in itself is just a word until you and I give it its value. And just like that, when you chose a conflict value of 6, and I gave you right up to 12, I'd say, wow, your world is really flowing. Because if that's conflict, you're cruising along at 6, you're right in almost the bus lane. You've got to go pass.
Right.
Because a lot of us are hanging out in lane number 2 with 6 trucks ahead of us and a few spare tires on the road in front of us. A little more energy. So that's one thing we do when we look at it as a practice, is to understand that I like things to make sense. How does that sound when I say it should make sense?
That would be great.
Yeah, and that it should have a few simple steps, that it doesn't, we're not so cluttered we got to remember 12 steps. Ours is 5, because we are subtractive, not additive. We want to make it simpler. So our process is 5 simple steps, proven, and they have a very definite order, and you can trust them. And more than just 5 steps like going up a ladder, there are 5 steps on a highway that they can go back and forth along the highway. So you're not stuck in the practice if you take one step and then you're into the next one and the door shuts behind you. No, the door is open. You can go both ways. That's what makes our process so, in a sense of flow, is you can move ahead, and if you've lost connection or a point, you just back up and pick up where you left off, where it's safe at the level of understanding you're working with, then you move ahead again. So you're in a very dynamic, collaborative, co-creative partnership within the process that absolutely works. And it only has 5 things to remember. The reason we chose 5, we had 5 fingers. So I often laugh. I love to get 5 happy faces on my fingers. Okay, there's the first happy face, second happy face. By the time we get to 5 happy faces, we're really happy. and that's the simplicity and elegance of the process.
Right.
So when I say that, what comes up for you about it making sense, and that it is a very defined art as well as a science?
What comes up for me, you're asking?
Yes.
Well, I mean, the question that came to mind when you were talking about it was, what is it about those 5 steps that creates a sort of structure that holds people and takes them from one place where they're really stuck out the other end where they're free?
doability. You can do it. You can do it. It's not overly complex. It's not for psych majors or engineers or doctors. Any person coming in can do it. It's simple. It's proven. It's count them on the fingers.
So it's practical.
It's a practical process.
Right.
We're just saying it is a process, and it has boundaries and guidelines, and there's more depth to it, of course, but I just like to say that the process is 5 simple, elegant steps that's built around, I could rhyme them off because they're that easy, the stories we tell ourselves. Ever heard anybody tell you a story that wasn't true?
Absolutely.
In the Valley, we have the old expression, some of the lies people tell you aren't true. So we know stories are made up. And have you ever made up a story to get attention or to let people know how elegant we were or what we did really nice? Ever made up a story that, wow, I really shone today?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we all seem to want to do that. We need acknowledgement, recognition. Have you ever made up a story that left out a few details?
Yes.
We talked about the beginning of the story. Man, I had this big challenge, and then we dropped right into the end of the story, the wrap up, the 20, and I overcame that, and I was a hero, and I won the race, and we kind of leave out about 60% of the middle where I went through hell. Ever had a story that went like that over a dinner table?
Sure, yeah.
So the stories you make up tend to be inclusive and exclusive, and they're randomly selected events. And the challenge with that is that people are going away from your story without enough information to really connect to you. Because we're not denying being authentic, we've just not put all the cards on the table. And so that's the process, is to define credibility, trust, rapport, and authenticity, is to tell and become aware of what is the real story.
Right.
And finding the element of the story. And the second part, of course, is as we observe and step back from our story, what really happened? What's the real story? What's not the beginning, and not just the end, where I succeeded, overcame, but when Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, did they ever put him back together? Did Uncle Billy ever get his $5,000 back in that Miracles we watch every Christmas? Did he ever get the money back? You know, we want to know these things. And people drop that out of the story. So we're making decisions because we want the story to enliven. So we have an observation. And then we touch base with the things that I denied for much of my life, real feelings. Didn't know if I was allowed to have real feelings. And even when you do, are they feelings that properly identify the challenge? We look at real needs, and then we move into what's a request I can have to make sure they're met. We say that every feeling is the precursor of an unmet need. And that's the 5 simple, elegant steps that make the process so valuable and so viable and absolutely doable.
Thank you, John. That's great to keep learning about this conflict evolution program.
Thank you very much.